Hey guys, welcome to today's episode. So I've got a special treat for you today. We have here an attorney by the name of Augusto, and he is an expert in relocating to Costa Rica. He covers virtually all aspects of moving here. So he's got a wealth of information. So Augusto, welcome. And the first question I want to ask you, this is the most common question I get. If someone wants to move to Costa Rica, they want to build a whole new life here, I guess the first thing they need to do is get residence. Can you talk about the process? How easy is it to get residence for a foreigner?
Hello everyone, my name is Augusto and I'm very happy to be here at Sunset del Mar. I'm surprised with the beauty of the scenery here. We have more than 20 years of experience in the residency procedure and anything related to starting a life here in Costa Rica. The beauty of Costa Rica is that the system is very straightforward. If you comply with the requirements, you get the residency. However, there is, as you can imagine, very specific details that you have to follow. In this case, there's three main types of residencies. The first one that we have is the residency as an investor. In order for you to become a resident as an investor, you have to make an investment of $200,000. Then you have the second category, which is the rentist, in which you have to demonstrate a minimum income of $2,500 a month. And then the third one, which is also very popular, is the residency as a retiree.
So let's start with that second one. I think the rentist you said. So you said they have to demonstrate $2,500 coming into their account. What if they're from, say, the USA, and they have that money going into their account in the USA? Is that sufficient, or it's got to be a bank account here?
That's a very good question. We have found out that that the best way to process to be successful with the rentista residency is actually to open a CD, a certificate of deposit, in a local bank with $60,000. That way, the bank will give you a letter saying that no matter what, for the next 2 years, you will receive $2,500 a month. And that actually guarantees the Costa Rican government that you're not going to be a burden for the local society.
So you said $60,000 into a local bank like Banco Nacional, BAC, they're okay? Okay, and it's a certificate of deposit. So they put the $60,000 in a local bank here, and then the bank is going to slowly pay that out over 2 years. Got it. And now the first form of residency, which might be popular for a lot of people who want to be here permanently, is to put it into property, to buy real estate. Okay, so you've got to invest $200,000 in real estate. And can that be any real estate? Can that be an apartment, concession land like here on the beach? What's that limited to?
The law is very specific. The law says that in order for you to become a resident as an investor in Costa Rica, you have to invest $200,000 in a Costa Rican asset. So that even extends to buying or being a stockholder in a business, not only on real estate property. However, we have found that the most attractive investment right now is real estate. So as long as you can demonstrate that you have invested $200,000 in a local asset and that you own it outright, then you are eligible to become a resident as an investor, and the benefit is extended to your spouse and to your children under 18.
I didn't actually know that. So they could bring their entire family and invest in any business. So it could be a restaurant, a hotel, as long as it's $200,000. Okay, that's very interesting. Okay, so yeah, guys, that's another option. If you don't want to buy property here, or you want to take more time to find the perfect property, if you did want to start a business here and you found a restaurant or a bar or a small boutique hotel, that is another avenue. So they invest $200,000, and then I imagine they get an attorney such as yourself. What's the actual process though to get the residency and to be officially a resident?
The process itself begins with the retaining the services of a specialized immigration attorney. Costa Rica became a very attractive tourist destination organically, so the country wasn't prepared, and still's not prepared, the institutions themselves. However, our job as attorneys is to bridge the gap between the government and the process. So once you retain the services of an immigration lawyer, you would have to sit down and look into all the details of your personal details, where you were born, where you are resident at, and then you begin to draft a plan which implies getting your background check, getting a birth certificate, a marriage license if applicable, and then that's the first part, which is actually gathering the documents, making sure that they are processed the correct way, which is with the apostille, or we need to make sure that the documents are properly legalized. And then after that, depending on the category that you are eligible for, the three main categories that we have already mentioned. Let's say if you are interested in becoming a resident as an investor, then we have to determine what's going to be the correct way to purchase the asset. Normally, the way to purchase the asset in Costa Rica is to form a local company where you, as a foreign investor, control 100% of the stock. And then after that, we would conduct a due diligence on the property, a title search, and then close on the property. Once you have closed, and then once you have the title of property, which is a very fast procedure, then you are eligible to file the residency. And then once you file the residency, you are allowed to remain in Costa Rica until it's approved.
And I know this is hard to give an exact answer, but let's say they've got the $200,000, they invest in a business, they're set on moving here. What are they going to need to spend approximately in legal fees to get that residency?
The legal procedure, the legal fees vary very slightly among attorneys, but the minimum legal fees per applicant are $1,000. Normally, depending on the level of expertise of each law firm and other variables, they could be $1,500, $2,000 per applicant. And then there are other fees that are the government fees. So normally per applicant, one could say that you would need to take into account $1,500 in legal fees. Then there's $250 which are called processing fees, and those are meant to change your category from tourist to residency applicant. So that's the first phase. Once the residency is approved in a process of about 12 months, then you are going to be welcome to get your residency ID card. So for that, you would have to pay $98 for processing, $25 for the ID card, and you're going to have to make a reimbursable deposit depending on your nationality of approximately $300 to $400. And with that, you are going to be what we call documented. You're going to get the residency ID card, and then that's the end of the process.
Why does someone need to become a resident? This is the other side of looking at it. If they can come into Costa Rica, theoretically, and stay for 90 days on a tourist visa, and then every 90 days go to the Panama border or fly to Mexico, come back in, what's the benefit of getting residency as opposed to just doing border runs?
Yes, that's another great question, a very typical concern. Well, first of all, we have to clarify that anyone can invest in Costa Rica from any nationality. You don't have to be a resident to buy property or to lease property. But what normally happens is that a big percentage of the foreign investors and tourists fall in love with Costa Rica, so they want to stay more than the allowed 90 days, which is what the visa normally allows them to stay. So in order for you to be able to stay here for more than 3 months and not have to do the border run, then you have to become a resident. There's been cases in where the customs authority of Costa Rica see a pattern that a person is doing that every 90 days. They stamp less than the 90 days. We have seen cases where they stamp a month or 3 weeks, depending on what the answer of the tourist is. And at the end, becoming a residency is a way of contributing with the local social security system, which is one of the requirements that you're gonna have to comply with in order for you to become a resident. So in general, it's just a matter of following up with the local procedures and having the advantage of not having to leave every 90 days.
Someone decides they want to move here, they're going to buy a house and get residency through that. Buying real estate here, I imagine it's very different. Well, I know it's very different than a lot of other countries. I'm from Australia, so it's my experience here getting involved with this project was very different to anything you would face there. But can you talk about the process of buying a house? Buying a house, whether it's on the beach or say an apartment in a town like Harco, what's the process from start to finish, time frame, costs, if you want to buy property? Perfect.
Definitely, it's one of the most common business transactions right now that foreigners are conducting in our country. The big advantage that we have, Matt, in Costa Rica in comparison with other countries in Latin America is that we have one of the best digital central registries. So this digital national registry covers a huge percentage of all the properties in Costa Rica. So it's very easy to access the online platform, type in your ID number, and confirm that you are the rightful owner of a Costa Rican asset. So that's one important clarification that I like to do, because that's what makes it different investing in Costa Rica than investing in other neighboring countries. Having said that, the closing process is very straightforward in general. As most of the properties are titled, then normally what happens is that the person that's interested in buying the asset, they go to a broker, and the broker normally refers the client to a trusted attorney, which is, in my opinion, not the correct way to do it. The correct way to do it would be to go to the broker, find your ideal property, and then find for your own specialized real estate attorney, because that way you're avoiding possible conflict of interest with the attorney that has been referred by the broker. The specialized real estate attorney will find the details of the property, which are normally the property number, and they would go online, and then they would conduct a title search, determine if there are liens, who is the rightful owner, what the restrictions are. They would do a title search that could normally take 2-3 days depending on the complexity. And then after that, basically when you receive the green lights from the attorney, that same attorney, acting as a public notary, will be in charge as your representative to draft a public deed where both the seller and the buyer manifest their will to do this sales purchase agreement, and then both parties sign, and then the testimony of this public deed is filed at the registry, and after a week or a maximum of 2 weeks, then you have a clear title on the name of you as a person, or on the name of a Costa Rican corporation that you formed specifically for that purpose. The costs in these are very straightforward. The government expenses are 2.4% of the total value of the property. So if you're buying an asset worth $100,000, then you know that you're gonna have to pay $2,400 in taxes and government fees, and then the legal fees are around 1.25% of that. So that's the total cost of closing on a Costa Rican property.
You said something that made me curious about the title search. So you advised that you would probably have a real estate attorney doing that. Let's say that someone wanted to do that themselves. They're thinking about buying a property, they want to make sure there's no bad history with liens or any legal problems attached to a property. Can the average person go and do a title search, and how do they do that?
No, they can't. Anyone can access the online registry, but the level of technicality of the restrictions is just for specialized real estate attorneys. And then in Costa Rica, the only people that can actually handle the transfer of the property are the notary publics, which in our country are also necessarily attorneys first, and then they have a specialization as a public notary, as they have public faith, and they are basically there to make sure that both parties are protected. As I said before, the seller and the buyer. So in this case, the act of the public notary slash specialized real estate attorney should be impartial. But as local custom, it is normal that the buyer is the one that hires his attorney and makes sure that his money is properly paid and that he obtains the proper title.
Let's say someone's really in love with the idea of living on a beach. So right now we're at Esterias Este. I'm sure you guys can see that in the background. This is one of many beaches in Costa Rica, and usually I've found foreigners moving here, they either love the idea of being on a beach or they want to be up in the mountains somewhere. But let's say they want to be on a beach and it's concession land. What's different about concession land as opposed to title? And can you define that as well for people who don't know what it is?
Right. Concession land is a little bit trickier because in order for you to be the rightful owner of a concession, you need a Costa Rican in that case. And and the other thing is that the concession has a specific duration, which is normally 10 years, and it has to be renewed after that. So it's not impossible. It requires a further level of a specialization in your attorney, and it's worked out normally very well for many foreign owners or foreign concessionaries that are the beneficiaries of a concession. So yes, I mean it does require a bigger level of legal expertise, and it has to be studied a little bit more than just a regular title.
You've been doing this for a long time. You've had a lot of people come to Costa Rica, foreigners. What would you say are the most common mistakes they make?
To be honest, there's plenty of mistakes. One that I can think of right now is to listen to other expats. They normally go to a bar or a restaurant and they have been advised by a specialized attorney, but all of a sudden they change their mind because they heard 4 or 5 different stories of expats. Normally their stories are horror stories because they try to save a couple of pennies with an attorney that's not specialized, and they made some mistakes. Normally I would say that those mistakes are made not out of bad faith, they're just made due to negligence. So that's one of the mistakes that you have to be very careful with. I think that you have to do a very thorough research of the attorney that's gonna advise you in obtaining your residency, in closing on your property, in opening a business. But you could look for referrals, and you could look for the history of a law firm or a lawyer, and then there are many ways in which you can confirm that the person that you are hiring is the best way to do it. For example, a very recent example is people trying to handle their own residency without the assistance of an attorney. And residency can be done without an attorney. That's something that we have to be clear. However, as I said before, our system wasn't designed for foreign investment. It's something that has happened over the last 15 years. So as the country faces its own local problems, it's still trying to become more of a better jurisdiction for foreigners to invest. So that can be solved through the expert assistance of an attorney or a consultant, depending on the field. Because, for example, the local institutions represent an obstacle, which is the fact that you're not going to find English-speaking officers at immigration, at the registry. So that's a big obstacle there. You need to be able to communicate correctly with your advisor. I disencourage from you handling your residency by yourself, because the process could be daunting if you don't have the proper practice. You need to make sure that you are hiring a specialized immigration attorney who visits the immigration office in San Jose every week. So that helps push your residency procedure, making sure that it's being followed up. So I honestly advise you to do a good research while hiring your attorney, to make this a dream for you and not a nightmare.
Let's change topics slightly. So, someone's decided they want to move here, they want to get a property. Next, they might be wondering, well, how do I get a bank account and how do I get debit cards and credit cards? What's the process for any foreigner to get a bank account set up?
Correct. That's a very good topic. Again, all banks in the world are looking to see that the person that wants to open the account has an important level of attachment to the country, because they need to understand why a person that's a non-resident is gonna have an account with them. So in order for you to get a personal account or a corporate account, you need to show a level of attachment to Costa Rica, which can be done by demonstrating that your residency procedure is in progress, or that you have formed a company and that the company is going to conduct business, or that you have purchased an asset. So those are three ways in which you can demonstrate a bank that you are going to have a level of attachment to Costa Rica, which the banks need to comply with all the regulations. So unfortunately, opening a bank account is not a very easy procedure. It is a procedure differently from other countries. In Costa Rica, you have to come up with a certain level of paperwork to be able to get that personal savings account or corporate account.
So, on the topic of real estate, someone wants to buy a house here and they want to get a loan. They want to get a loan from a bank, a mortgage. How easy is it for a foreigner to get a mortgage? And I know the answer to this. What's the alternative if they can't do that?
Again, a very crucial question, because it's virtually impossible for a non-resident to obtain a loan from a national or an state bank. However, there's always options. So the option is for you to get owner financing, or to contact a private lending company. Those would be the two options that you would have if you want to buy a company using financing.
Regarding the private lending companies, where does a person find these private lending companies, and what kind of interest rates would they be looking at?
The private lending industry is still developing in Costa Rica. It's partially regulated, I would say. And normally people will just have to go online and look for private lending options in Costa Rica to see what type of companies they find. The interest rates are not comparable to the interest rates that you're going to find in North America or in other countries. I would say that if you're lucky, you would get a 7%, and it could go all the way up to 12%. That's what I've seen in the market. And normally you could get financing for 3 or 5 years, and then in the meantime, as you can imagine, you could do your own calculations to pay up the loan, or find another way to finance at the end of the term.
More of a general question. This is a question sometimes I get from subscribers. They hear things about crime in Costa Rica, and some of them are concerned about moving here. What's your take on crime in Costa Rica? Is it safe? Has it been getting worse over the last decade or so? What do you think?
Well, still accordingly to the global statistics, Costa Rica is a safe country. However, perhaps our weakest point is that we don't have a standing army. So that makes us depend on the local police. and the local police has been improving, but it's not as effective as in other developed nations. So in this case, I do believe that there is, just like in any other country in the world, there is, but my take is that mostly we have petty crime. We have, that's what you have to be careful with. You have to make sure that that you live in a gated community, that you have, the basic gates, because normally our Costa Rican way or understanding with security is that we have to be preventive. So that's why that if you come to the capital, San Jose, you're going to see a lot of gates and even barbed wire. And it's not that we have all been robbed. It's just that we know that the response of someone getting in is not going to be as effective as we would like. So we are just like taking security in our hands and preventing it to happen.
Do you think it's necessary for a foreigner coming here from, say, the USA or UK? Is it necessary for them to learn Spanish?
I would say that it's definitely not necessary, but it's just a big cultural asset, which is going to allow you to get more immersed in the local culture, understand the local way of being. But Costa Ricans are, in general, very friendly, very open to foreigners. We like to be visited by thousands or millions of foreigners. As you know, when I was growing up in the 80s, we didn't have a single tourist in our country. So when this changed in the 90s, we got all excited, and we are still excited to be able to attract people from all over the world. So I guess that's my opinion.
So finally, let's say someone's been listening to this and they think, I like the sound of this guy, he really knows his topic, and I want his help in moving to Costa Rica. How does someone get in touch with you and become a client?
Thank you, Matt. I'm the managing partner of GLC, a law firm that has the main office in San Jose, but we cover all of Costa Rica. That's our specialization. We assist clients from abroad in getting the residency, opening up a company, closing on the property, getting business permits to open up a business. So we pretty much full service law firm specialized in protecting and developing foreign interests in Costa Rica. We have a lawyer that's specialized in every single subject. So in that case, our model is meant so that things advance all at the same time. And you can find us at lawyersofcostarica.com. That's one of our websites. I guess that's the best way to do it. And you can write to me personally at my email, which is my name, which is Augusto, and you spell that like August with an O at the end, at GLC Abogados, which is the word for lawyers in Spanish, .com. So it's Augusto at glcabogados.com. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. So lawyersofcostarica.com or glcabogados.com. Either of those two websites. All right, so guys, I hope you enjoyed that episode. Augusto, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And guys, we'll see you in the next episode.